Hello?
Where you at, man?
I'm about to pull up right now.
What? Where you at?
Nah, don't trip, you'll see me.
On the beats.
Pull up, stunt, lap. Pull up, stunt, lap. Pull up, stunt.
So today we are changing the spark plugs on my 2005 E55 M113K engine. 5.5 liter supercharged. First thing you want to do is start off by taking off your intake. I already took off the front cover of the engine. I already got them snapped off, but it's like a couple little clips on the bottom, right here on each side, and then on the back, right here on the throttle body. Engine cover and your intake off. You'll see your area of work right here, coil packs. And I mean, it's going to be the same procedure if you have the V6 engines or the V8s, even the like the E430s without the supercharger, all pretty much the same engines. It's going to be the same process. And what you want to be aware of is, see how it has that H? That H and that G right there. Well, once you pull out these wires, the wires are lettered. Oh, give me a second. So I'm gonna break it is what I'm gonna do. Yep, that's exactly what I did, was break it. That's perfect. Be mindful when you're taking these off because they're probably the original parts and they're very brittle, and like I did, I broke the clips. That one's broke. All of them are gonna break, I'm sure. But yeah, so just be mindful of that. In this video, I'm just gonna make it real short because I mean the procedure is pretty much simple. I mean, once you do the first one, it's pretty much the same all the way. It's just once you start getting towards the rear of the engine, that's where it starts to get harder to access them. But we're just gonna show you how to take them out and then put them back in. I'm gonna do one, but you'll get the gist of it. Because there's start off by taking off your coil packs. You should wipe them off so you can read what they say. You see how this says AB? I'll show you about that in a second. But you want to come and start taking off your spark plug wires. I already took this one off. And it's best like to use a spark plug wire tool like this one. I picked this up at AutoZone for like $9. Now remember I was talking about the wires. This one actually, oh wait, here it is. Okay, now you see this, you can see it, that's an L on this wire. And then if you look onto the heads, the cylinders, you can see, you see G1 and an L. The 1 means this is cylinder 1. This one will be 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 so on and so forth. But the L means this spark plug needs to go to this wire with the L, the one in the front. Then the one in the back would be G, which is this one. This one will be G, the one right here will be L. This is L. So remember that. You can mark them, but if you can remember, just remember. And this is what the screw and the coil pack looks like. It goes right there in that hole. The socket is a T30 socket. Give me a second, let me find a place for my bolts. Handy dandy. That's the socket. T30. Boom. Plugs out. You're gonna want to use 5/8 socket. My tool set comes with one, thankfully. The first two are gonna be really easy. Third one's gonna be easy. As you start getting past that one, we're gonna start getting harder. and you're gonna starting to use like extensions and a swivel. Now this is a good setup to start with the first one, two, maybe even third one. Then you're gonna want to bring out your swivel. But this is a spark plug socket designed just for spark plugs. If you look in there, you see that rubber little washer looking thing, little piece. That basically grabs the spark plugs as you're putting them in and taking them out. Comes in handy. There it is. Okay, see, that's the first one. Boom. That's the second one. Boom. This will be the third one. We haven't got there yet. Still has a wire on it. But you see that. And what you gonna want to do, what you should do before you remove the spark plugs, is blow a little air in there around them, so when you remove them, you don't get any debris or anything in there. I don't have any like shop air, so I'm using duster. Now right here, taking the spark plugs out starting with the first one, and I'm using the torque wrench just to make it easier because these spark plugs are the factory ones, and they're pretty rusted in there and difficult to get out. But just using this torque wrench loosens them up pretty easy. Then you can, once they start breaking free, you can use like a regular ratchet to get them out if you don't have a torque wrench. A regular ratchet will still work, but torque wrench makes it a lot easier. And as you guys can see, I started to loosen the spark plugs with my hand. That's something I like to do, as once I break them free, it just makes it faster to take them out. But you can hear them squeaking, and that's just for them being the original spark plugs and being in there so long, and they're very corroded in there. And as soon as I pull this first spark plug out, you can tell that these spark plugs were bad, man, and they needed to be replaced as soon as possible. And I'm glad that I got to them. Look, you can see that. Oh my God, look at the spark plugs. These are horrible. And they're definitely the factory NGKs that were put into the engine in 2005. As you can see, they still have the Mercedes logo on them. And you can see the spark plugs that I'm using here. I'm using the Autolite Iridium XPs. These are equivalent to the NGK, what is it, double Iridium, or the Bosch double Iridium as well. And you see the old ones. We'll give you a side-by-side comparison with the old and the new ones. And you see the difference. And also, these spark plugs already come pre-gapped. Most of them are going to come pre-gapped. I don't think you're going to get any spark plugs for these cars that's not gapped already. But go ahead and just make sure, just check the gap size. You want to be mindful. Just make sure you have the right gap size spark plugs. If not, then you gap them accordingly. And right here, you'll see me pull out the anti-seize, and I'm just using a little bit around the threads just so they won't corrode in there like the old ones did, and they won't be as hard to take out and replace next time. But you want to be mindful of the amount of anti-seize you use. A little goes a long way. Most of these spark plugs that already have like the coating on the threads to prevent them from getting stripped into the head. If you use anti-seize on them, you be mindful that you're changing the torque specifications. As soon as you use anti-seize, you're changing the torque specs. So just be mindful of that. And when you're going to put the spark plugs in, be very careful not to bang the electrode around on the heads or anything. You don't want to damage the spark plugs before you even get a chance to use them. Okay guys, and just like before, when you see me taking them out, I like to loosen them with my hands. I like to hand tighten them when I'm putting them back in as well, just to avoid the spark plug threads going in crooked or anything, so that you won't strip them and you won't have any problems with them. Give them a couple turns with your hand before you put a ratchet on there. So you're gonna want to use a torque wrench to torque down the spark plugs to the specific specifications, and that's gonna be 25 Newton meters, also known as 18.44 feet-pounds of torque, and that's what the specs for these spark plugs that you torque these down to. You don't want to under torque them, you don't want to over torque them, because that can cause problems. And if you're going to be using a torque wrench for this like I did, then obviously you should already know how to use the torque wrench. But you set your torque specs, and then you torque your bolts until you hear that click, and you fill it in the torque wrench, and that's your torque point. And just like that, you change your first spark plug. So I'm not gonna walk through me changing every spark plug on this engine, because the process is pretty much the same. It just starts to get harder once you get towards the rear of the engine. I found it easier when I did the driver's side. I found it easier. The driver's side worked very well with all my tools. I didn't even need to use a swivel. Just an extension and my torque wrench and the spark plug socket, of course. So you're literally just gonna start reinstalling everything that you just took apart in reverse order, and that's literally it. It's very simple. Once you do the first one, you'll get the gist of it, and you should be done in no time. When you're putting the spark plug wires back on the spark plugs, you want to make sure that you connect them all the way. You want to hear the click, or feel the click at least, once you're pushing the wire onto the spark plug. If you don't, then you can cause problems. Of course, you can misfire, your spark plug wire will pop off, your spark plug can end up shooting out your engine, all type of things. So you just want to make sure you avoid that. And that's pretty much it. You change your spark plug, you know how to do it. I really hope this video was a help to everybody watching. Anybody interested in learning how to work on their own Mercedes AMG, or just their own car in general, because this is a universal thing. I mean, every car runs on spark plugs, so you have to change every car's spark plug. So I hope this video helps you. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and we got more stuff coming soon. So stay tuned. This is the V8 gang.
Hey, pull up, stunt, lap. Pull up, stunt, lap. Pull up, stunt,